Sura Sura. Namaste. Welcome. Hello, beautiful souls. I have not done a deck review walkthrough for many weeks. Very busy teaching. So I thought today I would share with you a deck that is not new. This is a deck from 2017 that I often bring out in beginner tarot classes. This tarot deck is called The Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Bright. It is a red feather publication. Comes in one of these boxes like the Guardian Tarot. And it's not tarot size. I'll show you in a moment. I have edged mine in black. This is quite a remarkable deck. Quite remarkable. I find it it's so very inclusive and very easy for beginners to read. And I don't see this deck on a lot of people's channels. And so that's why I decided to share this deck with you today. Also because it's on my desk. And I really love sharing this deck with beginning tarot students. It also has wonderful color. It's wonderfully color coordinated. So, for example, you can see that these two initial major arcana are very yellow, as is the suit of swords. Now, this doesn't work across every single major with every minor, because there are, of course, discrepancies with the elemental correspondences with some of the suits, but we will get into that as we go through. Okay, so for those of you that are new, hello, my name is Sadhana. I'm an intuitive reader and healer, and if what you hear today resonates with you, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Hello, Ramon, Tamian, welcome back. So let's make the cards bigger and go through the deck, and I'll just make some general comments as the cards appear on the table, and also talk about some of the things I love in this deck. It is silhouette. It is very inclusive in that regard. So often it's very difficult to identify even gender and age, of course. High Priestess. I kind of like, I feel a sauciness in this card that I like. Hard for me to explain, but you get all of the familiar symbology. The veil. Now, this is very interesting because if you see that yellow, light yellow, you can see the veil here, but you can see beyond the veil, which is something very different in this card. I appreciate, and I have some other work of Stephen's in my library, and I meant to bring it to the table, but I was late for my last broadcast, so I didn't. Maybe I'll share some of that another time. There's something very, very powerful in this Empress card, and if you gaze at the High Priestess and the Empress simultaneously, the purples, there's something about that synchronicity of color that feels right here for me. She is outdoors. It may be grass, it may not be wheat. The trees are thriving behind her. There's a softness to this card that I really like. And also, the fact that she's not facing head on. And I know that the Empress in the Waite-Smith deck also has knees in the same direction, but there's something there that feels very approachable. The same with the Emperor, who's not facing you head on, feels a little more approachable. He's also in a very humble sort of a chair. Yeah. Watch the moons and the suns. Now, this may very well be the planet Mars that's in the background. It could be a full moon, but there's also something really kind of beautiful about the sun and the moon phases in this particular deck. So the Hierophant is also in purple. And if I go to the Suit of Pentacles, just so you know, the Suit of Pentacles is primarily greens and browns. So this purple is quite unique to the major arcana. The orange, we do see that in the Suit of Wands for sure. And I'll play with that in just a moment. This is a an early version of the deck, so I don't know if there have been any changes or alternate cards or anything like that. If you do online camera work, this deck is impossible to photograph. It's so hard. It's shiny. Yeah, it's very glossy. And because of the silhouettes, it reflects a lot. One thing that has really shifted with the energy of my decks is a move away from contemporary iconography. And so a chariot on a skateboard with a city landscape behind. I don't have a lot of these decks anymore. I'm trying to refine my collection to make it more universal. I don't know if that's even possible, but within this deck, it definitely works. The chair, okay, I'll come back to that one. So we have more purples here, Hermit and Strength. The Hermit card is absolutely stunning. I love it. Yeah. Stephen obviously loves moon phases. There's a lot of full moons in this card. There's something very interesting about this wheel card. Is it not surprising that the figure at the top of the wheel isn't reaching down to help the person on the left? Maybe they would fall off if they did that. The wheel would rotate. I don't know. This reminds me a little bit of the Anna Kay wheel card, if you have that deck. Yeah. What goes up must come down. Justice. Atop of a rock. Justice will prevail. Now, is it possible to get a sense of adjustment here? I would say that justice is not standing on firm ground, therefore it must adjust. And I say that because I think the range of interpretations for this card is it's important to be aware of its range. Also notice that these cards are not numbered. So if you read Justice, I've got it here in the 11 position, but if you read Justice as 8, right? So that's one of the advantages of not having numbered cards. Might be a little more difficult for beginner students, but I'm assuming that beginners would also have another deck that they would be learning from. Real sort of, I feel like Neptunian colors. I don't know what the color of Neptune is, but it really feels like that. I have been working with classical planets and astrology in the tarot and tend to read this as elemental water, but I really kind of feel that Neptune energy in that card. The Angel of Death. This is also a great deck if you read Facings. Here's another card, very contemporary. But I get it. I get it. And I think it's a great way to help querents explore the idea of what does temperance mean? I mean, ultimately, big high frequency picture is that we are moving towards enlightenment or on the journey towards that. And the more we can stay on our path and open to all of that, the more that we stand in the power of our divine feminine, and we know the softness of our divine masculine, that we can blend everything together and become this incredible version of ourselves. Something like that, very simplistically put. But sometimes we have to practice the mundane. We have to learn how to vary our selection of music. We need to become more cognizant of the kinds of things that we read and how we spend our time, so that we start to balance our lives in a way that feels more aware of everything. So I can appreciate a card like this. It's a very interesting card. Actually, I'm going to read. I may have read this guidebook. I don't know if I ever have. Let me read this because this is a kind of a bizarre card. A baby reaches out to a horned figure. The figure does not appear frightening, nor does he entice the youngster. The devil is a part of us all. Like the baby, we may experience times when we feel powerless and hand responsibility over to something or someone else. There is nothing wrong with letting yourself go. A little bit of what you fancy can do you good. However, when our appetite controls us rather than our controlling it, I have a problem with the word control, it's time to address the healthiness of our relationships with people, money, food, or even emotional support. This is interesting because this is a concept that I often share in live readings. I am not here to take away your power. I will not tell you what to do. When you ask questions about shoulds and you want a direct yes or no answer, there's something about empowerment rather than control. I think that is an important quality to understand in the journey of this card. And of course, we need to look at this card very much in connection with the Lover's card as well, too. Highly, highly significant in that regard. Anyway, this is not a tarot class. Going through, sharing all these cards. And again, another very contemporary scene for the Tower. It almost looks like it could be parkour, doesn't it? Beautiful star card. We get the bird, the symbol that we see in the Waite-Smith deck as well. I love looking at star cards. I think they're very inspiring, and they want me to be they encourage me to be a better version of myself. I think that's what I wanted to say. Moon, let's look at moon and sun together. And you can see in this deck there are many scenes from the UK in the background because Stephen is from London. I find that a very inspiring sun card. Yeah. Okay, so what I wanted to show you before I go through the minors is the color palette. So in theory, this card should probably match with the wands as a fire card, Sagittarius fire. So, yeah. Purple is not a color we see in the minors. There is a little bit of bluey purple in the cups. Green is definitely the color of the pentacles, but green in the majors is a range of elements. So Chariot, if you read Chariot as Cancer, it's green, so that doesn't necessarily fit. So in some cases, so for example, the Emperor, where is the suit of Pentacles? I've lost it. The Emperor fits, right? So we have fire, fire. So I just wanted to share that with you, that in some cases it fits, in other cases not so much. And I think I should show you as well too. If you don't have cards this size, if you have the Guardian Tarot, they're kind of like that size. And I am going to back up the camera so I can show you all 4 suits at the same time. So sorry, very unprofessional, but I'm going to do that. Okay. Let's go Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. I might need to even back up more. Okay. These are, you can tell, right? They're not tarot size. They're a little wider and okay, does that work? Something like that. They're a little wider and shorter. They shuffle kind of clunky. Schiffer cardstock is definitely not my favorite. But you know what? It's a great little deck. And if you're new to tarot, it's kind of fantastic. I think it's very, very accessible. And it's a great second study deck for sure. You probably will feel common energy among these cards and the RWS for the most part. There's not too many cards where you would question, oh, why did he do that? It feels very familiar. And it almost, that 3 of Swords to me looks like it could be part of a scene from the 5 of Swords. And there's some cleverness to some of the things he does. Like in the 3 of Wands, I like that there's 3 ships as well as 3 wands. And there's an attempt to retain familiar symbols, familiar iconography from Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. And what you see on the screen is pretty much the same colors. You're getting pretty true colors on the screen here. So the similarity between, in many cards, between the yellow and the green is quite similar. It's interesting. Oh, why is the Queen of Wands there? Sorry, I don't know what I've done here. Sorry, bear with me. I'll fix this for you. Knight of Wands. Oh my God. Sorry, we had the Ace, right? And then we had the 2, and then we had the 3 of Wands. Okay. Just a second while I fix this for you. Knight, Queen, King. Okay, let's go back. 4 of Wands. Okay. Familiar, right? 5 of Wands. Sorry about that. I feel a great deal of compassion in many of these cards. And I like that while, I said you can't see gender, I like that there is more masculine energy in many of these cards. And there's a couple of decks that I often pull out when I'm reading with male querents. A lot of the decks I have are very feminine, and this deck is great for that as well too. I don't feel like there's quite a few decks out there where people can feel excluded for sure, and this is not one of them. Okay, so there's the sixes. And I'm sure many of you have seen this deck before, but I think it's an important one to remember. And it would be a great one if you were, sitting with a friend who was curious about tarot. Hi, Rosella. Welcome. Thank you. And you wanted to explain a little bit about tarot, but you just kind of felt like pulling out a Waite-Smith deck would be... It's harder. It's harder to explain. This one feels accessible. And I have a soft spot for this Eight of Pentacles because I love sewing and I've always loved to, so I like that. Detail, dedication. There's a youthful vitality to this deck as well too. So, I have had the honor of doing some tarot readings for people who are 80, 90, very on in their years. And am I doing a reading for the collective? If I have time, I will. I am doing another broadcast at 6 o'clock on Facebook. It looks like I will because I'm almost through the walkthrough. So so let's do a reading for the collective. And this is not a deck I would use for them. It feels a little bit youthful in that way. I like this card a lot. Yeah. And there's the tens. The courts are very familiar. Page, Knight, Queen, King. And the pages are youthfully active, which is fun. Football. My son is a football player, soccer player. I find tremendous depth of emotion in the cup cards. It's incredible how Stephen was able to capture that in a silhouette deck. I think he's very, very talented. He is an artist, graphic designer. You can also look in the description box below. I put 2 of his books down there as well. The first one I have, the second one I don't have. And then the final chords, the kings. Very few cards do I feel maturity in the cards. I think that 10 of Cups was one of them. So let's do a reading for the collective. Okay. Thank you for that prompt, Rosella. Just get all of the cards together. So if you have this deck and have been working with it for years, or if it is new to your library, let me know when you use it, who you use it for, how it works for you, because I think it's a pretty special deck. And while I said, I don't know, that I just don't, the devil card, I just don't really connect with. Just going to fix this a little bit. There we go. The guidebook is, what do you call it? You know, that kind of binding where it's all knit together nicely, doesn't fall apart. It may very well be glued. I don't think it's sewn, but it's a great little guidebook. And you can hear from the shuffling, it's kind of clunky. Yeah. I said I would show you its size. So here is, and you can see how shiny it is, how glossy. This is a standard. Let me do it like this. So you can see the tarot card is a little bit taller and narrower. Those backs are from the Hilda deck that I showed a few weeks ago. Okay, so we have a partial eclipse on the weekend. And we have just moved into Scorpio season. And I know a lot of people are feeling very challenged with this energy. So let's just focus on that and ask how we may best navigate this energy in this first week of Scorpio, particularly moving through the eclipse and all that it may awaken for us. Okay, I'm just cutting the cards into doing the first operation. I'm going to use the water pile. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit of PR while I do this. So let me adjust that. Oh dear. I'll just leave it. I'll just put up some of the courses that I'm teaching as I'm doing the reading. Like I said, very busy. The bottom of the pile is the Nine of Swords. Let your dreams, this is from the words of Carmen Sorrenti. Carmen Sorrenti is the creator of the Philarkos Tarot. And this was language I got from her, and it had to do with creating your dream temple. When you go to sleep at night, if there's a lot of crap in your room is not tidy, you haven't made your bed. I loved the way, and it could have just been a sentence or two in her book, how she described the dream temple. And I really appreciate that. I think the sleeping area is sacred space. And so if we want to view the Nine of Swords as dream, as maybe the challenges that we move through when we're sleeping, let us set up our dream temples so it supports these journeys. The Nine of Swords can be a real breakthrough moment in connecting with spirit. So just be mindful of that. Chariot. So another water card. That's interesting. There's an invitation. The moon is still waxing. So continue your building energy. Okay, continue your building energy. Continue to, even if you're feeling a little depleted, feel like you're feeling tested. I think that's a good word. A lot of people have been feeling tested lately. Be courageous as you move through the eclipse season. Be aware of your emotions. When I think of the Chariot in terms of Cancer energy, there's this fine line between the protection of the shell of the crab and the vulnerability of the crab who has recently molted. And so I want to be mindful of that journey as well too. And why I'm saying that is because when we get to full moon energy, it's really important that we can let go. There's a surge of energy that also invites a simultaneous release. This feels very fiery. So a full cycle card, a 5 and a 10. Okay, I said testing. Confrontation, aggressive behavior. I think it's important how we use it and how we view it and how we respond to it. The major card, the first card, the most important card, is one about going forward through the weekend, knowing that this eclipse energy is going to carry us forward. It's like we're riding on this skateboard through the eclipse. Be brave enough to go through it. I wonder if the 5 of Wands is chatter, it's disturbances. Maybe it's people that are saying, oh, well, I need you. Why are you going to that full moon gathering? Or maybe you have a joyful Samhain or a pre-Halloween party that's coming up this weekend, and there's some sort of argument or confrontation holding you back from this particular celebration. Celebrations are good for you. They're good for you because you release through friendships and joy and sharing and singing and dancing and whatever it is that you're doing. So it's good. It will help you to bear that which you are bearing. I feel like there's a finish line that is significant. And I don't tend to work in benchmarks, but I really feel like this charioteer on his skateboard is kind of whooshing through, and it is important to stay the course. There's a certain level of endurance that is necessary here. You will be able to manage it. There is something at a gut level that feels it's kind of all encompassing. Like it almost might make you feel sick. But you need to see it through. We need to see it through. We need to have the strength, the capacity to go through. It's almost like the eclipse it's a portal. And to not be distracted. So this is really, really important. When we are trying our best to go forward, go ahead, that, sometimes we need blinders on. This has been a really important message that has been coming up again and again in different ways for me personally. And so I strongly recommend you ask yourself, when you're feeling pulled in multiple directions, how can I regain focus here? Because I know this is my path. I know this is where I'm going. I might not understand exactly, what the destination is, but I know that this is the right direction. And so stay true to that intuitive pull that you are having. Remember, the high priestess the high priestess lives with the chariot, moon. So that's a very strong energy here. Okay. All right. Well, that is an unexpected reading for today, but it kind of feels good, and it feels like I need to listen to my own advice as well. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I will be shifting gears, heading into my Facebook group, and I will see some of you there shortly. Take good care. Namaste.